Welcome to Melrose Unitarian Universalist Church. Our service today is called The Evidence of Things Unseen, Easter Sunday. Good morning. Oh, come on. Let's try that one more time, shall we? Good morning. Good morning. Now we're talking. All right. Great to see you. I am the Reverend Dr. Suzanne Intriligator. My pronouns are she and her, and it's a beautiful day to be alive. Happy Easter. Now, if I know our crowd, they'll be shuffling in the next few minutes. That's just, we tend to be a little bit late, and that is just fine by me. So, as I was saying, today is a momentous day. It is Easter Sunday, of course, but maybe you didn't know this. For the first time in more than 30 years, Easter, Passover, and Ramadan are happening at the same time this year. They're all happening right now. And in addition, there's also a festival this very weekend for Sikhs, Buddhists, Hindus, Baha'is, and some indigenous groups. Talk about a holy day. The earth is probably buzzing with spiritual energy today. So let's see if we can tune in and feel it, shall we? Before we enter in that far, though, I have a few announcements because it's a busy, busy time at church. Yay, more people are coming in. A big thank you, first of all, and a happy Passover to the 26 people, I think, by my count, who participated in our Seder on Friday night. We think it was the first one here in something like 5 or 7 years, and we all had a good time, despite the frogs, the lice, the boils. They were there with us for some reason. We managed around it. Thank you also to Liz Meyer, who I think is in the other room now. She is volunteering for the very first time this morning as our coffee host. So please be gentle. We want her to do it again. And while we're at it, thank you to our ushers, Michael and Nancy, who are probably ushering today for the 100th time or 200th time. I don't know. Thank you very much. And thank you, a shout out to Beth Urgrau and I think Adrian Wood, who are both our chat hosts on Zoom today. Thank you very much. Thank you also to our guest organist, Paul Rutz. Sounding good, Paul? I hope you'll come out later and take a bow. And thank you to the choir who've prepared some beautiful special music for us. I heard it this morning and it sounds really good. And a special shout out to a couple of choir ringers this morning. Tara's mother and brother are with us and they round out the sound. Thank you so much. Any other thank yous? Let me see. Oh, a little change today to how we do joys and sorrows. Our worship committee has voted that we would like to try having people come forward again and sharing at the microphones. So today is a bit of an experiment in a new hybrid format. You will have 3 different options. People on Zoom can still type in a sorrow or a joy into the chat box. People in this room can submit them on paper if they like. If you're feeling shy, there are slips of paper in the back. You may have noticed them the way in. If you put your hands up now, Michael or Nancy will bring you a piece of paper and a pen if you want to do it that way. And you can come forward, as I say, when instructed. We're going to do sorrows first and then joys. Okay, next week your worship service will be led by the Green Sanctuary team, followed by a finance forum at noon here in this Zoom room, and you can watch it here live in the sanctuary. That's when our treasurer will tell us where we are with this year's budget and present a draft version of next year's budget, so please come and play along. Then, following that, on Tuesday, April 26th at 7 p.m., come here again to learn about a special speaker. Green Sanctuary is having a special speaker from Extinction Rebellion Boston. You can come here and learn Tuesday, April 26th at 7 about their plan to confront the climate and ecological emergency. The talk will be about 45 minutes long and will include breakout sessions. The following Sunday, May 1st, our worship team is organizing some more backyard gatherings, just like the February fire pit fun that we had in the wintertime. More info on that is in your midweek update. Email Eric or talk to him in coffee hour today. Why don't you wave, Eric, so everyone knows where you are. And a couple weeks after that, on May 15th, we're hoping to host a potluck lunch here again for the first time in how many years, keeping our fingers crossed, where we can meet the 2 clients who are being served this year by our immigration ministry team. That's May 15th. Mark your calendars. And you may have noticed that in recent weeks, we have had some younger visitors to our sanctuary. We were expecting maybe a couple today, we don't know. So you may have seen we set up this lovely toddler play zone in the back of the church. And we're working really hard on getting our nursery back up and running. So if you know of a trustworthy adult who is not a member of this church, who would like to get paid to spend 2 hours holding babies every Sunday morning, please let me know. On a related note, we're having a new function called Parents' Night Out on May 7th. If you're a parent in this congregation, you should have gotten an email from Katie. Parents can come along and enjoy some food on us at Mexico Lindo and some free babysitting. Mark your calendars, Saturday, May 7th, or talk to Henry, who's helping to organize it. There's Henry over there. What could be better than that? I don't know. Another small note for our parents. Today, immediately after worship in Parish Hall, I am inviting the children to join me in an Easter egg hunt. That will be after worship in Parish Hall. As you exit today, children can come with me if they like, get a paper bag, which I have some, that'll be your Easter basket, and we'll go and search for goodies in Parish Hall. I have about 30 eggs prepared, so I'm guessing that might be about 5 eggs per kid. If there's any issues with allergies or concerns, please let me know, and parents are, of course, invited to come along. So a lot of announcements. So let's move on to our weekly moment of greeting. Turn around and say hi to each other, wave, give hugs, shake hands if you like. Say hi to the people on Zoom. Let's see if we can see them up on the screen. Good morning, Zoom people. Happy Easter. All right, everybody, I'm going to point out Jeannie Harris. She's got an Easter bonnet on. Can't miss that. Looking good, Jeannie. Beautiful. Good morning. Happy Easter, everyone. So let me call us to worship this morning. Time to get serious and feel the energy in the air. I call us to worship this morning with these words from the English poet David White. He writes, "Easter morning to me has always seemed to gather every other morning of the year in its arms, to sacralize that everyday but crucial threshold we cross in waking into the world again. If we are not caught in our own bubble of enforced ordinariness, abstract insulation, and closed protection, this is an astonishing world, always wanting for us to join our own voice in the taken for granted but extraordinary privilege of speaking, living, and breathing. Amen, and welcome to worship. Now, we light the symbol of our faith, the flaming chalice. Here to do it for us this morning is, I believe, our member of the second longest standing, which is a very awkward phrase, Randall Gromitstein. This spring, she will be celebrating 50 years as a member of this congregation. That'll be, I know. We're going to have a whole ceremony on it in a couple weeks, but for now, Randall is lighting our chalice. Good morning, Randall. Oh, I should have lit that candle for you. I'm sorry. My bad.
Not like mine does. Oh. All right. As a non-smoker, I'm sorry.
First, this one, and then you can use the candle to light the chalice.
All
That
right.
should work just fine.
I watch it every Sunday. You'd think I'd learn.
Usually it's a little more graceful. I apologize.
I call us to worship this morning with the words of the Reverend Suzelle Lynch. The fire of love burning deep in every human heart calls us to awaken. Awaken to the work of justice. Awaken to the work of compassion. Awaken to the work of community. For in this time of human suffering and exaltation, we are called beyond awakening into action. May the chalice flame we now light Guide our hearts in service to a greater good that holds all living things in its holy embrace.
Thank you, Randall. Choir, if you would please come forward. As you're doing that, I have a little word. Before we join in our opening hymn today, we have a very special birthday to celebrate. As I mentioned last week, today, the wonderful Margaret Gromitstein turns 95. I know, it's amazing. Thank you. And we decided that we wanted to sing to her, but we wanted to call the choir first because we don't really have any mics pointed at the congregation. So if she wants to hear us, the choir is going to do it. Choir, are those mics on? Can you double check for me? And I have made this silly card. Some of you signed last week. It'll be in coffee hour again. We'll sign it again today. I'll be visiting Margaret this Wednesday, bringing her some flowers too, and I can bring the card then. For now, can we see Margaret on the monitor? There she is! Yay! Thank you, Bill. And she can see us. Fantastic. No, I just said, no mysteries there. Thank you so much, Margaret. We wish you many, many more. Tara, go ahead.
Our opening hymn this morning is number 270 in your gray hymnal, O Day of Light and Gladness. We will show the lyrics on the screen behind me, but please rise in body or in spirit to lift our voices in song together.
Thank you. Please remain standing and let us join together in the words of our covenant, which are on your screen, followed by our song of aspiration. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. This is our great covenant, one with another and with our God. Thank you. Go ahead. Late break and reminder, there is a toddler play area in the back of the room. If anyone would like to access it, they are welcome. Not naming any names. It's time for another interactive story. Are we ready for that? Is everyone awake enough? Do we need more coffee? Am I on the camera? Okay, maybe I should stand here. Thank you, Bill. All right, good morning. It's another oldie but a goodie. I am going to need your help with the props. Everyone, please look under your pews now. If you see anything under there that doesn't belong, that looks a little bit weird to you, if you could please bring it forward. If you don't feel like participating today, feel free to hand off the weird item to somebody else, maybe a kid who might want to participate. Oh, thank you, John. I was hoping a big, strong man would get that heavy piece. Thank you. Now, you don't have to line up in any way. Just kind of stand up here somewhere. Josh, that lady's purse is not one of the props for the story. You got me there. I mean, we could figure out how to work it in, but right now I don't have any ideas. Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm hoping that there are 12 props in all. Fantastic. It's one, actually. Thank you, Ethan. Would any of the adults mind passing off to some smaller people, I think, who wanted to participate? Viva, you want to come up? Heather? How are we doing? Tara, did we get all 12? Do we have 12 yet? I think we're missing the piece of chalk, which is in the very back, somewhere in the very back, maybe behind Michael. What else are we missing, Tara? The halo's here. The halo's here. Oh, thank you, Ellie. That's really kind of you. Technically, you're still a kid, but for a few more weeks. Chalk. Thank you, Stacy. Does anybody want to hold the chalk for Stacy? Any younger participants? Viva, you got one? Okay. We've got an extra. Who's doing the halo? Anybody want to hold that for me? You want to do both? Ooh, Heather. Double duty. Okay. All right. Tara, you telling me we got 12? And Tenby has one there? We don't have? I'm not interrupting my story. I've got, okay, candelabra. Candelabra, chalk. Heart. Ethan's got the hearts. The palm. Michelle has the palm. What's next? The bread and wine. That is right here. Willa has the bread and wine. Thank you so much, Willa. The rope, we've got that. Viva's got that. How about the cross? Tenby, good job. The big heavy stone, John. Oh, you know what we didn't find? And this was all on me because I hit it poorly. There is an empty Easter egg on the windowsill over there. Who wants to bring that forward? Jane? Sarah, would you guys like it in the back? Or it's up to you. Oh, Ethan's got it. Anybody else? Okay, fantastic. The egg, the halo, the paper dolls. Do we have the paper dolls? Paper dolls, thanks so much. And the chalice, we're good to go. All right, I'm going to start telling the story now. Can anyone guess what the story is today? What am I going to be talking about? The story of Easter. Ethan is on top of it. The story of Easter. This is an oldie but a goodie. Okay, 12 props. Great. All right, you can all stand here in no particular order. You don't even have any lines today. Your only job is to do the kind of Carol Merrill game show modeling. So when I talk about your prop, you just show it to everybody. Model it to everybody so they can see it. That's all you have to do. Then, when you're done, put it here on this table. We're building a little altar today, and go back to your seat. That's the whole job. Thank you so much. Okay, today's story is something like 2,000 years old. It concerns a young man named Jesus who lived in first century Palestine, which at the time was a province of the Roman Empire. Jesus was a Jewish person. Do we have a symbol of Judaism here? Anybody? Dan, very good. It's important to this story that Jesus was Jewish. Most of the Jewish people were very poor, but they had to pay a lot in taxes to the Romans and a lot of money to the high priests in the temple too. Dan, if you would just come and put that on our altar, your job is done. Thank you so much. Jesus became a teacher. Do we have a symbol of a teacher here? What might that be? The chalk. Thank you, Stacy. Model that around, would you? Jesus walked about the countryside teaching people about a time to come when all the world's people would live in peace. Jesus called people to leave their homes and jobs to follow him, and they did. They did do that. Okay, Jesus talked a lot about love. Do we have any symbols of love here? Ethan, I think we've got two. Show everybody, nice and high. People on the camera, can you see what Ethan has? All right. Jesus preached about a radical kind of love, a love so profound that it actually healed people from the pain of separation and loneliness, from actual physical pain, illnesses, and miracles Jesus performed with his love. When spring came, thank you, Ethan, many Jewish people traveled to Jerusalem to celebrate Passover, a traditional festival, and they had to make sacrifices at the Holy Temple there. When Jesus and his followers came to Jerusalem, people lined the streets, and they waved palms at him. Do we have one of those? Michelle, there you go. Can you wave it for us? This is why we remember that day as Palm Sunday. Jesus told his followers not to trust people who trusted the Romans. He even said, "They will kill me." On that day, he predicted. That Thursday, Jesus went to the Holy Temple, and he kicked out everyone who was selling things there. The people in charge got really mad at him, but the crowd of people who gathered liked what he was saying. The people in charge of the temple tried to trick Jesus into saying something that would get him in trouble, but he was really careful with his words. Still, they asked the Romans to arrest Jesus and get rid of him. That night, the last night that Jesus was alive, he gathered with his friends for a meal. And at the meal, they had bread and wine. Willa, can you show everyone the bread and wine? Yeah, thank you. Jesus blessed the bread and wine, and he asked his friends to remember him by eating together in the future. This is why Christians today celebrate the communion with bread and wine. Thank you so much, Willa, and thank you, Josh, her able assistant. After the meal, when Jesus was praying in the garden, soldiers came to arrest him, and they tied his hands. What would they have used to tie his hands? Ooh, show everybody. Nice and high, Viva. Thank you. Your mom wants a picture. There you go. That's right, the rope. The soldiers took Jesus to the Roman who was in charge of that area, a man named Pilate. Pilate asked Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus said, "That's what you say." They accused Jesus of many more things, but Jesus didn't answer them. The next day was Friday. The Roman soldiers hurt Jesus and made fun of him and called him King of the Jews. They tied him to a cross, and they made him carry it for a long time. And then they hung him on that cross, which is why the cross became the symbol of Christianity. People gathered around and kept making fun of him, even as he was dying. They said, "Save yourself, do a miracle now, then we'll believe in you." At noon, according to the Bible, the sky turned black for 3 hours. At 3 o'clock, Jesus died. A man named Joseph asked Pilate for Jesus' body. Some women followers of Jesus took his body down from the cross. They wrapped it in linen, and they laid it in a tomb. And then they closed the tomb with what? Thank you, John. You've been very patient. A big, big stone. Thank you. Oh, be careful. Don't. Beautifully done. Thank you so much, John. You should wear the halo today. The next day was the Women's Day of Rest. So the day after that, the women came back with spices to prepare Jesus' body. It was Sunday. But when they reached the tomb, what did they find? The symbol is the egg. What's inside the egg, Ethan? You want to open it and show everyone? It's empty. There's nothing in it. It's just like the tomb. The tomb was empty. Where was Jesus? And now an angel appeared to the women. Who wants to be that angel? Do you have the symbol of the angel, Heather? You want to go ahead and put it on your head? All right, you're looking good. The angel said, "Do not be afraid. I know you are seeking Jesus. He is not here. He has risen. Go and tell his disciples." You want to do one of these for us, Heather? Beautifully done. Turn around, show everybody your beautiful angel pose. The good news. Thank you, Heather. The disciples were shocked and dismayed, but they resolved to carry on Jesus' work to preach about a radical love that connects all people everywhere. Who has a symbol of people connected? That's right. Can you show everybody, please? Thank you so much. 2,000 years later, people are still telling the story about Jesus, and our UU faith is part of that rich legacy. Who has a symbol of our UU faith? It's the last one. Do you want to hold it up? You got it, Heather. Correct. Thank you so much. Show everybody. When people on the camera see, what is that? What do we call that? That's the chalice. Thank you, Heather. You can put it down, and thank you to all my helpers. Some people believe that Jesus literally rose from the dead on that Easter Sunday, and other people believe that he lives on through the wisdom that he taught. There are so many different ways to interpret this story. Our Universalist forebears earned their name because, like Jesus, they taught about a God who loved all of humanity and saved all people. Our Unitarian forebears got their names because they revered the teachings of Jesus, but they didn't think that he was part of God. Today, our UU faith continues to make room for all different kinds of statements of faith about this story. Thank you to everyone for helping me tell the story, and thank you for your good listening. And now we move on to our time of prayer and meditation. Each week, we take a few minutes together to center ourselves and connect with the holy in whatever way works for us. Let's start by relaxing into our chairs, feeling our feet on the floor, letting our bodies settle in. Let's breathe in and out together. In our meditation time today, first we'll center in our centering song, then we'll sit for a few minutes of shared silence, then we'll speak to one another of our joys and sorrows, and I will lead us in prayer. Our worship theme for April is Awakening. It's a month to awaken along with the springtime, to refresh our awareness of our deeply interconnected nature, our interdependence with all living beings. Our centering song for the month is Wake Now My Senses, verses 1 and 4. Join in as you like, and then we'll have 2 minutes of silence.
Power of being.
Every Sunday, we share with one another the joys and sorrows of our lives, our personal milestones. We listen with openness and compassion, letting the sharing weave us into an ever stronger community. I invite the people who are at home on Zoom to go ahead and type any sorrow you'd like to share today into the chat box. Anyone who would like to share a sorrow, please come forward and step to this microphone. And if we have any paper ones, we'll do them at the end, and we'll light the candle. Okay, let's wait for this one here, and let me check on Zoom. Go ahead, John. Can we check if that microphone is on? I think it should be. Go ahead, if you, yeah, and go right up to it. Thank you.
This is a candle of sorrow. My sister-in-law's mother-in-law passed away this weekend, Mineko Matsuda, after a long illness. She is at rest.
Thank you, John. I'm looking in the Zoom room, and I don't see any sorrow shared there. Adrian, Beth?
No, I do not. I don't.
Someone from, let's see, from Linda Ireland. She says, sorrow for the continuing tragedy in Ukraine. And also from Liz Broder, my updated diagnosis of being a major risk of bone fracture due to osteoporosis. Sorry about that, Liz. Adrian, Beth, have I missed any sorrows?
No, you haven't.
Okay, I hear none, and Nancy says we have none on paper today, so let me just pause us for a moment and let us hold the sorrows that have been shared, and all those are unspoken as well. Let's hold them for a moment in our hearts and in our minds. Let's send out our love to all the people in the world who are hurting today. Let's remember to reach out to those around us with love and care and let them feel our love through our actions. We light one candle now as a beacon of care. Thank you. Thank you, Nancy. Now I'm going to ask people for their joys. People at home, go ahead and type them into the chat box. Anyone here has a joy to share, I invite you to come up now. You can step to the mic over here, and you can take off your mask one at a time if you choose. You don't have to. Nancy, do we have any joys on paper? No, we don't. Okay. Let's line up along that wall. Looks like there's lots of joys today. Fantastic. Okay, Ethan, you want to go first? This mic you have to, can we hold it in our hands? That one you got to get right up to, especially if you don't take off your mask.
It's Easter.
That's a joy. That is a good joy. Just hand it to Barbara if you would. Thank you. It's Easter. It's a joy. Barbara, step over this way so people at home can see you.
Hi. So just a joy for, again, Easter, like Ethan said, but also for a really wonderful Passover here at church on Friday night. It was great to do it in person after a really long time of not doing it here. And just happy spring holidays to everyone everywhere.
Thanks, Barbara. Thank you. Vincent, step over here, please, so people can see you. It's a little bit of an obstacle course up here. Go ahead.
Candle of Hope. I just spent several days in Miami getting my mom moved into assisted living facility. I'm happy how it turned out. I think she's in a much better place. And so I'm just hoping that she's able to find peace and a little bit of comfort in her new situation.
Okay, thank you. Just a sound check. Can people hear here? Okay, people at home, give me a thumbs up if you can hear. Okay, good to go. Go ahead, Ellie.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Ellie, and I know a lot of you have watched me grow up, and I'm graduating high school this spring, and I want to share where I'm going to school next year. I'm going to be going to my top choice Dickinson College in Pennsylvania.
One more time?
Sorry, I'm Dickinson College in Pennsylvania.
Dickinson College.
And I'm going to be joining the UU Church there as well in Carlisle. So
Fantastic. Congratulations, Ellie. Thank you so much. Hooray. Come forward.
All right. I'm Sarah, and this is Willa and Jonah. And we have a candle of joy because our dear friend Liz unexpectedly got up from our Seder table last night and headed to the hospital with her husband Paul. And we woke up to the text that they had a baby overnight last night.
A baby?
A baby, yes.
Yay, a baby. Yay. Fantastic. Congratulations to them. A Passover baby. Yes. Randall.
I'm Randall, and as you heard, my mother, Margaret, is celebrating her 95th birthday. And I just wanted to mention that I made her a Joe Gould chocolate cake. There aren't too many people in the congregation who remember Joe Gould, but I consulted the 2011 cookbook, which Mary Beth Griscom co-edited along with Tim, and there's Joe Gould's recipe in the first section of desserts. The book is about this thick.
We've got 2 copies left if anyone needs one. Come forward. Go ahead. Hold it right up and speak loud.
I finally got to go back to dance after having COVID and seeing my little girls that I teach and all my friends.
Right. Thank you. Heather? Come stand over here so people can see you. And speak.
I have a joy for the Easter egg hunt.
Yay, all right. The joy for the Easter egg hunt. Fantastic. Let's see. There's a lot of joys online. So many hooray for Margaret and happy birthdays that I don't see any joys aside. Oh, here's one from Dan Franklin. Joy and gratitude for seeing my daughter Jay and my brother and his family yesterday. Rebecca says, I still make Joe Gould's chocolate cake. That cake is awesome, says Jeannie. Adrian, Rebecca, am I missing any joys in the chat room?
No, you're not.
A joy for Nancy's ears, of course. Look at her. Every bunny loves you. All right. Okay, let's take a moment to hold all the joys, even the bad jokes, in our hearts with gratitude. Thank you for sharing these joys that help us to connect to one another and to the beauty of being alive. We light one more candle today to shine out our gratitude for all the many blessings in our lives. Thank you, Nancy. I seem to be carrying a microphone. Can you put this one back for me? Ooh. Please join me in the spirit of prayer. I offer you a special Easter prayer by the UU minister, Sarah York. In the tomb of the soul, we carry secret yearnings, pains, frustrations, loneliness, fears, regrets, worries. In the tomb of the soul, we take refuge from the world and its heaviness. In the tomb of the soul, we wrap ourselves in the security of darkness. Sometimes this is a comfort. Sometimes it is an escape. Sometimes it prepares us for experience. Sometimes it insulates us from life. Sometimes this tomb life gives us time to feel the pain of the world and reach out to heal others. Sometimes it numbs us and locks us up with our own concerns. In this season where light and dark balance the day, we seek balance for ourselves. Grateful for the darkness that has nourished us, today we push away the stone and invite the light to awaken us to the possibilities within us and among us, possibilities for new life in ourselves and in the world. So may it be, and amen. Now is the time for our offertory. We are back to passing the plate. Our church is a self-supporting organization funded by your generous annual pledge. You may also contribute to our weekly collection plate, which we split every month with a deserving cause. Folks on Zoom can donate either way using the orange button at the top right-hand corner of your homepage at melroseuu.org. For April, our giving partner chosen by Green Sanctuary is Extinction Rebellion Boston. Half of our collection today will go to them. For our offertory music this morning, the choir will sing an old Easter spiritual from the African American musical tradition. This arrangement is by Peter Amidon, and it tells the story of Mary finding Jesus' tomb empty. It's called "The Angel Rolled the Stone Away."
The angel rolled the stone away. The angel rolled the stone away. 'Twas on a bright sunny morning, the trumpet sound. The angel rolled the stone away. Sister Mary came a-running at the break of day. Brought the spirits from heaven, rolled away. The angel rolled the stone away. The angel rolled the stone away. 'Twas on a bright sunny morning, the trumpet sound. The angel rolled the stone away. I'm a-looking for my Savior, tell me where he lay. I am the mountain, stone is rolled away. But the angel rolled the stone away. The angel rolled the stone away. 'Twas on a bright and shiny morning, the trumpet sound. The angel rolled the stone away. There were soldiers there a-plenty, standing by the door, but they couldn't hinder the stone rolled away. But the angel rolled the stone away. The angel rolled the stone away. 'Twas on a bright and shiny morning, the trumpet sound. The angel rolled the stone away.
Gorgeous, gorgeous. Thank you so much. I'm taking a deep breath. I've been telling people this is the hardest sermon of the year. So many people in the room, we bring so many different backgrounds and expectations to the Easter story. So many faith experiences and opinions, some positive, some difficult. Let's just start by saying that all of them are welcome here, all of them. I pray I treat you all with respect and tenderness. But since it's the hardest one, why don't we start out with a joke? An Easter-themed joke, even better. All right, so use your imagination. At a gathering of early Christians, someone recognizes the wealthy landowner, a wealthy follower of Jesus named Joseph of Arimathea. And that person says, Joseph. Maybe this person was even an early Unitarian. They're so polite. The person says, Joseph, it was so generous of you to give your tomb to Jesus. Thank you. And then Joseph says, it was no big deal. He only wanted it for the weekend. Where you use, feel free to boo. I said all opinions are welcome here, and I meant it. So if you were here last week, you remember that we talked about the story of Passover, how the 10 plagues seemed so outlandish. And yet today, there are actually some scientists who are building theories about how the plagues, or something like them, could have actually occurred. A kind of chain reaction among species, crazy as it sounds. I also said that, weirdly enough, The plagues are not actually the most unbelievable part of the story now, because historians and archaeologists these days generally agree that the evidence seems to show that the Jewish people were maybe never even slaves in Egypt to begin with. Maybe the whole premise of the story is fictional. I said, what does it mean to believe in a story? This week, we take on another major origin story, the origin of the Christian faith. Wow. I am really hitting it hard this year. What does it mean, again, what does it mean to believe in a story, I asked you. I said that the etymology of the word believe is actually tied to the word beloved. While we modern folks tend to think that you believe something rationally with your brain, it needs to be logical, the word actually comes from something you do with your heart. So when we remember these old religious stories, maybe in addition to asking what we can take as literally true, we can also make some space to speak of what piece of them might be accessible to the heart, what piece might be beloved. How do these stories speak to our hearts or spark our creative imaginations? When we encounter the story of Jesus, of his ministry on earth and his death and whatever came after that, maybe it's okay to not have all the answers. Maybe it's okay to just sit with the complexity of it and the mystery of it. What does it mean to beloved the story of Jesus? Recently, I've been reading a book. It's called Zealot, The Life and Times of Jesus of Nazareth by Reza Aslan. It was a big hot deal several years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. I learned quite a bit from it, a lot of background and context about first century Palestine, the social and historical context of Jesus' life. And even though I'd studied it before at graduate school, I learned new things. For example, I learned specific stories about several other itinerant Jewish revolutionaries who lived at the same time. Because there was so much political repression, so much grinding poverty caused by corruption in that far outpost of the Roman Empire. Young rebels popped up repeatedly across the countryside, urging followers to resist both the Roman oppressors and their collaborators in the wealthy Jewish elite. Many of these resistors were also given the title Messiah or King of the Jews, a title which in itself constituted both blasphemy and treason, and many of those people suffered the same fate as Jesus. So what makes Jesus special among them? Why is it that even years after he was killed by the state, people were still talking about this carpenter from somewhere far out in the country? Well, 2 things. One, clearly whatever it was that happened on that Sunday morning at the tomb changed the narrative. Once Jesus' followers accepted the idea that he had risen from the dead, they stuck to that idea. And it was distinctive, unique to the cult of Jesus, and compelling. 2, in that embattled, crazy century, things were about to get a lot worse, actually. And those events would set the cult of Jesus on a new path. In the year 66 AD, which is about 30 years after Jesus died, the long-simmering tension in Palestine actually exploded into all-out rebellion. Miraculously, little bands of Jews routed the Romans and declared independence. But it would be short-lived. 4 years later, in 70 AD, the Romans returned with brute force and destroyed the little Jewish state. They murdered thousands, scattered the rest, and obliterated the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. That action transformed Judaism, changing it from centralized religion into a diaspora with rituals based in family homes and synagogues spread around the world. As for the fledgling faith we now know as Christianity, the year 70 AD was just as profoundly disruptive. One of its 2 main branches, the one that centered in Jerusalem, the one that was composed of people who had actually known Jesus during his life, that one was broken and scattered. These were the people, Jesus' family and friends, who knew him as a Jewish reformer, a friend of the poor and the outcasts, a subverter of empire, a teacher and a healer who lived as the birds do, owning nothing. They were also illiterate and faithful Jews, just like Jesus. But it's the other sect, the one that won out in 70 AD, that was allied with the empire. It was led by educated and literate Greek-speaking Jews like Paul. They lived in cities across the region, and none of them actually had ever met Jesus in person, in human form. After the fall of Jerusalem, this group preached a Jesus that was far more palatable to people like them, less itinerant Jewish revolutionary, more otherworldly, godly, abstract, triumphant. And these are the people who wrote the New Testament, every word of it. So, why am I telling you all this? To say that there is more than one Jesus, that even in the very, very beginning of the Jesus religion, there were at least two very different stories. And then, right away, there were four. And the way each story is remembered and told has probably far more to do with the people telling it and their locations and agendas than with whatever kernel of truth got passed down to them. Does all that change your idea about Jesus? Does it help you enter into the complexity, the mystery of the Easter story? What does it mean to believe in the story of Jesus, or perhaps even to beloved it? As you could probably tell last week, I love and appreciate the story of Passover. I think it belongs here in worship, and it was fun to tell it. But some years, like this one, observing Passover obscures our marking and remembering Palm Sunday, or Holy Thursday, or Good Friday, which are all critical pieces of the Christian story. For millions of people on earth, the story of Jesus' suffering is in itself liberatory, even without the resurrection. For them to have a God who knows what suffering is, who had a body just like ours and felt pain and hunger, to them it means that we are not alone when we suffer. The message of Good Friday and Holy Saturday is that there is no getting around grief and pain in this life. There is only getting through it. But you don't need to do it alone. To faithful Christians, that knowledge alone brings strength and courage. This week, think of all those millions of people in Ukraine who are celebrating Easter. How much comfort they might find in this message. And then there's the idea of liberation theology, the idea that Jesus and therefore God have what's called a preferential option for the poor. Because Jesus walked with the poor, ate with them, and put them at the center of his ministry, therefore God today can be found with the poor in their daily lives. What does it mean to believe in the story of Jesus? Maybe for me, for us, it means simply to make peace with it. To make a little more room or compassion or respect inside for people who hold it dear, whether they are in our families or in our towns or in our pews. Maybe it means to make a space in our hearts and our minds to re-engage with the story ourselves, to revisit the Jesus we were taught as children, or meet an entirely new one, freed from the centuries of detritus and misremembering. This week I read that according to the theologian Marjorie O'Rourke Boyle, we have been mistranslating for centuries one very important word in the New Testament. In the Gospel of John, which was written in ancient Greek, Jesus was synonymous with the word logos, which for centuries we've been translating as the Word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. According to Boyle, a more accurate translation for John's time and place for logos would have been conversation. So how different would your experience of Christianity have been if you had heard, in the beginning was the conversation, and the conversation was with God, and the conversation was God? What about the mystery of resurrection? What could that possibly mean to you? Do you think there's life after death? I, for myself, obviously, I don't know, because I don't think anyone really knows. But I have a little story, if you'll humor me for a minute. About 13 years ago, I was living in Wales with my husband James and our kids, and they were very young at the time. James was a professor there, and he didn't make much money, so we came home to the US only once a year, and when we could manage it. Maybe not even every year, all of us together, so it was a rather chaotic visit. For several years there, my father was dying. He and my mom were still in suburban Detroit, where I grew up, and his Parkinson's syndrome was forcing him to slowly deteriorate, both mentally and physically. My mother, who is a nurse and a hero, was determined to care for him at home until the end, and she did. And I absolutely could help not at all. Thank God I had 4 siblings on this continent, but actually they were far away too. The toll on my mother was enormous. And I felt terrible about it for years. I wanted to come back, but the kids were so little, I just couldn't leave them alone for a whole week. Well, alone with James. So my father died. Amazingly, he somehow waited for the summer when we were all together, and it was actually quite beautiful. But for months afterward, I felt terrible. I told myself I was selfish. I was a bad daughter. And then the weirdest thing happened. Out of the blue, I just had this feeling come over me. It felt to me that my father had come for a visit. Now, he didn't have a passport. He swore he would never come to visit us in Wales. But after he was out of that broken body of his, somehow it felt like he could travel with ease, and he did. And he told me, I just heard, it's okay. I understand. I forgive you. And from that moment, I have just felt so different about all of that. I can't explain it. It's not logical. It's not rational. But I believe that it happened. That my dad lives on in some way, in some form. I believe it. Maybe you have a similar experience in your life. Maybe you don't. Do you think there's life after death? What does your heart tell you about that? In the letter to the Hebrews, the Apostle Paul says, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. I'd just say maybe this Easter, when it comes to the story of Jesus, let your heart lead the way. If you find the story tugging at your imagination, why not join in the conversation? You don't have to have all the answers, just honor the questions. Today in our prayer we prayed, in the tomb of the soul we carry secret yearnings, pains, frustrations, loneliness. In the tomb of the soul we take refuge from the world. Sometimes it's a comfort, sometimes it's an escape. In this season, we seek balance. Today, we push away the stone and invite the light to awaken us to the possibilities. So may it be, and amen. For our closing hymn today, we have, I think it's our favorite Easter hymn, maybe. Lo, the Earth Awakes Again, number 61 in your gray hymnal, accompanied on the organ. Thank you, Paul, and thank you, choir.
Awakes again, hallelujah.
beautiful. Please remain standing and join with me in the words of our chalice extinguishing, which will be there momentarily, I'm sure. We extinguish the flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. You may be seated. Our service has ended. As a special Easter treat, please enjoy this organ postlude from Paul. This is the Allegro in D major by C.S. Lang. If the children would like to join me, and their parents, of course, too, or anybody else who likes chocolate and fun surprises, right after I go out, I see some hands. We're going to have a little Easter egg hunt in Parish Hall. And, but also, please, if people like organ music, please do stay here and enjoy. Happy Easter, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us in worship today.